Hey, yeah, I'm gonna make a short review of Skatedeluxe Mystery S twin deck. First of all, we're gonna talk about dimensions, and then we're gonna talk about how it rides, how it feels, then what trucks to use the best for this deck, and I guess kind of the rider that it suits the best. I'm not gonna talk much about like twin deck or twin shape on its own. I would focus primarily on kind of just characteristic of this deck. I think advantages of twin tail deck or twin nose, twin tip, whatever, it's a kind of separate story. So this deck is 8 inches wide. It's kind of accurate, I would say. The nose and tail 6.75 inches long. That's what reported on the website. This deck I measured, and one side is just a couple of millimeters longer than the other side. So it's just, it's never gonna be perfect, that the nature of twin tails. But I would say like a couple of mils is very close. Also, in terms of steepness, the kicks are actually the same steepness on each side, like 21 degrees, so it's fairly accurate. By the way, I put new grip tape because I rode on a sandy skate park and completely damaged my previous grip tape. So yeah, kicks are pretty nice. I would say 21 degrees, pretty good overall. Again, about dimensions, this is like I measured wheelbase. Reported wheelbase is actually 14.125. I measured and it was like 14.17, so it's exactly like 36 centimeters long for what I measured. What is interesting about this deck is in terms of dimensions or geometry, it's actually pretty flat over here. Like there's not much of a drop over here. It's like I'm not sure you should call it like mellow concave or whatever, but there's not much fingers of flat here. It's like just barely two, and there is not much of a drop. So it's interesting deck in that sense that it's does have mellow kicks. 21 degrees is not super steep. 21 degrees is not as steep, but it feels as a steep deck because there is not much of a drop over here, right, in this concave area. And when you hit the ground, the angle is obviously steeper because you don't have much of a drop, right? So even though it does have mellow kicks, it rides as a steep deck. Yeah, so for instance, when I talk about this fingers of flat or drop area here, as you can see this deck, right? And I will just add another deck that is like, just let me do this, right? So as you can see, right, there's a lot of a drop here, a lot of a drop. This deck does have a lot of concave or drop, or however you want to call it. Like usually when somebody says concave, I feel about this kind of concave. Steepness of kicks is this side, right? Like what is the angle over here? And this is like fingers of flat, and there's a lot of it here. And if we look at this deck, we just put it over here, you can see there's not much of a drop. So, and what it means even though kicks are mellower on this deck, 21 degrees roughly, than on this deck, this one does have 22 on the tail, 23.5 on the nose. This deck feels lighter to pop with the same height trucks, with the same trucks. Essentially, it feels lighter to pop. As you can see, there's like, it's very sandy over here in the skate park. This deck will just be completely used. yeah, so that's it, right? That's what I mean by not having much of a finger so flat or much of a drop. So it does have kind of unique feel to it. It's like you have mellow kicks, but they are kind of harder to pop. This deck, yeah, this deck much more fingers are flat, easier to pop. In terms of build quality, the deck is actually pretty well built. I have been riding it on and off during 1 month, and as you can see, there's a lot of life to this deck still, right? Like, it's not super used. Like, I have ridden other decks as well during this month, but overall, yeah, it's like it's not used as much. The wood, the deck itself is like 1275 grams. It feels relatively snappy, but a bit bulky, I would say. I'm not sure if it's like too wide or wider than regular decks. Doesn't seem so actually, but it just feels a little bit bulkier than some other decks. But it definitely has a lot of strength to it. Also, in terms of build quality or build characteristics, it doesn't flex as much as other decks. I would say it's on stiffer side. Like, it's not as stiff as carbon fiber or fiberglass or epoxy decks, but it feels like there's something to it. Probably there is. I'm not sure if like epoxy glue used for some layers, or it's just very strong wood. I'm not sure, but this deck doesn't flex much as other decks. And then it actually noticeable not only by feel, but when I have a session on this deck versus some other more flexy decks, my legs are more beaten up, especially like in vulcanized shoes on this deck. So it's definitely not a flexy deck by any means. Like, it's built to last, and it does have a lot of strength to it. Like, whether you like it or not, it is. What else? Okay, so build quality, dimensions, we covered all of that. What tracks to use with this deck? So I was using tensors, and tensors do have the same wheelbase as indie trucks, so independent, right? And as you can see, wheel bite is like over here, right? So I would say it's perfect spot, or almost perfect. So you can definitely ride aces on this. You can ride Thief or any shorter wheelbase trucks. If you ride Ventures, I'm not so sure, or Thunders, because first of all, as I mentioned, this deck kind of rides as a steep kicks deck. Doesn't have a lot of a drop here, so it will be a little bit harder, I would say, to ride on the wide wheelbase trucks like Ventures or Thunders, and also not going to be easy to ride on high trucks. So I think in these aces gonna be definitely working just fine, and for Thunders I need to test it. I don't have Ventures, so I'm not able to do it. So what else? Okay, yeah, and actually I was riding this deck with a tensor low, and I think this deck is kind of nicely, like, you can pair it nicely with the low trucks, because as I said, it rides like a steep deck, so you can get a lot of pop even on the low trucks, and you kind of get less tired if you ride low truck. So who can ride Skatedeluxe decks? I'm not sure if the other shapes are the same, if they use the same mold, but this specifically, like Mystery X Twin or Mystery S Twin, sorry, I think if you have a low trucks, you can ride it. if you have trucks with a shorter wheelbase like Aces, Indies, Thieves, you can ride it. Ventures, I'm not so sure. Thunders, I'm not so sure. I need to test it and get back to you guys. Also, this deck does have relatively long kicks, so it's not long, but I would say medium, depends on what you are used to, but it does have 6, 7, 5, right? So if you're used to very short snappy tail, it's not going to work well for you, right? But you probably already know it by looking at the specs on the website. So also, that's kind of all, I guess, from what I know and what I think about this deck. But I also want to ask one question, is like, who is the manufacturer of this deck? Does anybody know? Because it's never actually mentioned who does, or like who produces this Skatedeluxe decks. Is it HLC or some other manufacturer? If you know, yeah, drop me the comment below. But yeah, so in general, what are my thoughts on this deck? My thoughts are that I would definitely ride this deck again, and I will continue to ride this deck actually, because it does have a lot of potential, or like it still does have a lot of life to it. And another thing is, I'm not sure I would ride it exclusively, right? It's not like the shape and deck like, oh, I won't ride anything else, right? Like I will stick to it. So I will ride other decks, but this is definitely gonna be in my quiver because it's twin tail, it's nice, and it's like there is nothing wrong with it. Like it's okay. It's not perfect because it's not super light, it's not super like snappy, it's like none of that. It just feels right, feels okay. There's nothing exceptional about it, but also there is nothing wrong with it. There is a bit of a like creaking sometimes and here and there, but overall it's just okay. So if you have this deck or any decks from Skatedeluxe, please share your experience. I'm considering buying more decks from them. Also, if you have experience with twin tails, specifically this deck or other twin tails from Skatedeluxe, also let me know. That would be, I guess, interesting to know like what experience you have. Okay then, see ya.